Making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay. Living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off. Good morning from Paradise Surfers. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick the Crypto Hitman, and it is Thursday, March 12th. The week is flying by. We're already almost 2 weeks in the war with Iran. Oil spiked up to 120, now it's back down below $90 a barrel, I believe. Bitcoin's been ranging here, but I'm getting the sense that a breakout is imminent. A breakout to $75,000 may be imminent here, folks. So we will discuss the catalysts that are upcoming. There's some bearish news to report on as well. We'll talk about the private credit risk. That's a big story sort of percolating beneath the surface that may have wide-ranging impacts. So we shall discuss this as well. And we got a number of other great stories to catch up on today. But before we get in that, are you getting bored yet, Nick? What's the sentiment? Let's do a sentiment check, because I'm getting pretty bored with this range. I'll tell you that.
No, I mean, I like this range a lot. This is exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see price for Bitcoin. Let me pull up the chart. Get back above the 200 moving average. Have the 200 moving average start to find a rounded bottom so we can get a bullish MA cross, which would mean the 200 moving average crosses from below the 300 moving average. That is a bullish cross. So, I mean, this is great to see us back in the range. We obviously had that big breakout. We were in the range and we fell back out. So I'm happy to be back in the range. I'm happy to see this rounded formation on the 200 moving average. And we would love for this consolidation to occur, these bands to get tighter, and then us to have that follow through to the upside. Obviously, I would love $84,000 Bitcoin before we get supremely bullish. That's what I've drawn all the way back here off this $62,000 low. We're on our way up there. But, breaking above this red moving average would be bullish. Whether that's 75K or 78K, we shall see. And then you can do a bullish retest before the next move higher as well. So, yes, consolidation is always boring. But the fact that consolidation is happening here in between the moving averages is much more bullish than consolidation happening here below the moving averages. So I like what I see. And, of course, it's always on the whim of what's going on with Iran right now, oil markets, traditional stock markets, and really Trump's post on Truth Social. We've seen how they've created momentum each and every time he posts about it. Ethereum, I think, is doing the same thing, back above $2,000, back above the vaunted white line. Not as pretty, but still in between the moving averages, rounded 200 moving average above this white line, which we love to see with neutral indicators. So it has upside fuel to go, and you'd be looking to break out to 2,400 again on this one. We really want to see 2,800 before, say, a major low is in, bull market is underway. So what do you think about Bitcoin, Ethereum here? What do you think about what's going on with oil and Iran? They're all kind of playing together as we speak, and we got some news pieces to talk about, but what's just kind of your opening monologue for that?
I just think the market's very indecisive right now. I mean, everyone's waiting for a signal. When is this Iran war going to end? What's going to happen with oil? Strait of Hormuz? Is it going to get blocked? Are they going to mine it more? Or are they going to back off? Like, there is just so much uncertainty due to this war right now that I'm not surprised that the market is kind of just trepidatious and tepid and just sort of ranging here. I mean, but it is. If you look at the Bitcoin chart, and then you also, if you take a step back and you think about altcoins, I mean, this has been pretty boring for the past few months here. I'm getting a little bit bored. I'm like, all right, do something. Hopefully the something isn't breaking down further. I'd obviously prefer moving up, and I think we are going to get that breakout here coming when Trump essentially ends this war. I mean, that's really what we're all waiting on. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But until then, I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs here, folks.
Yeah, and the CoinMarketCap gives headlines and credence to people who are really saying not much of anything. From 21 shares here, obviously really big in the crypto space, making a ton of money for their advice or their TA, but they're not giving you much to work off here. Bitcoin will likely stay between 68,000 and 74,000 in the near term, but a breakout above 75K looks imminent following February CPI data, says 21 shares. So again, they're saying a lot of what we are. Consolidation between moving averages and look for a bullish breakout rather than a bearish breakout when that time happens. Obviously, we want to see follow through beyond 75K. We really want to get to 84,000 for major low implications, bull market underway implications, and really to get momentum in the flywheel going again, including retail hopping on board. Now, I say retail hopping on board, but we are seeing some light from institutional retail and from TradFi. Have you seen those numbers coming out of the ETF? More positive inflows amidst Bitcoin still sitting down here consolidating. So big money putting the money where their mouth is, and TradFi market participants buying spot ETFs rather than gold or any other asset.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We all need to be thanking our lucky stars that the boomers are now in this market, along with Michael Saylor. Because between Saylor and these ETF buyers, that's what's keeping the price afloat at $70,000 as far as I can tell. So the inflows have been very strong, as we can see here, $115 million yesterday. You add that to Saylor and the billions he's buying. I think he bought 1.3 billion. It kind of went under the radar. Maybe I guess we're just desensitized to it. But he's been buying a tremendous amount of Bitcoin because of the success of the stretch product that he's deployed. So between Saylor and the boomers and TradFi, the ETF buyers, they're keeping this price afloat. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think we do get desensitized to it on a large scale with Bitcoin, on a smaller scale with Ethereum and the buys and the accumulation from Thomas Lee and from Joe Lubin with SharpLink Gaming and Bitminer, and also on smaller assets like PTGC or Surf. You're like, okay, yeah, I know it's burning. I know you're doing buys and LP ads. Okay, you just get kind of used to it. But over time, when you're dealing with transparent, finite supply and or deflationary assets, the buying consistently and holding, the buying and staking, the buying and burning that is occurring from Bitcoin all the way down to Surf, those token economics are why this is one of the best performing asset classes in the world. If you keep at it, if you keep consistent, and if those people keep doing that, ultimately price will resolve to the upside.
I've actually been reading a financial book. I hadn't read it in a few years, but I'm revisiting it now, and it's sort of mirroring a lot what we talk about on this show, which is, patience, just DCAing through the bearish times. And if you look at portfolio performance between those who, trading in and out or, left during the bear market, but those who stuck around, I mean, the performance over time is unreal when you actually stay in the market for a long period of time, right? Because that's where you get the magic of compounding returns. But man, it ain't easy because I'm telling you, it's boring. It's a struggle. You've seen your portfolio go down and mess with your emotions. So no one said this was easy. But I think like Nick said and like a lot of the experts said, you got to stick with it. You got to stick with it. And eventually, glory comes to you. So hang in there, folks. We're going to make it.
Shout out to Moonmuck. Good morning, fellas. Shout out to you coming in here. The first red day on Pulse Chain in quite a while so far. We'll see if that wants to switch. Make sure to smash that like, share, and subscribe button, guys. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, Twitter gets the most views, so keep sharing that over there. Or if you're on Facebook or wherever else you might see this. Martin Max King, hello. Miko Chapo, good morning, surfers. It sounds like Miko Chapo sees the value in buying more surf. Maybe it was due to the Dow voting to deploy $1,000 into buying surf and buying PLSX and adding to that liquidity pool, adding like 8% to that LP due to the low prices down here. So big impacts will continue. Dow continues to vote to benefit the token. We continue to use revenue to buy and burn the token. And then, of course, all trading volume pays holders rewards and automatically buys and burns the token as well. So deflation is in effect on Surf. Deflation is technically in effect on Bitcoin with Michael Saylor hoarding it all. And now what is the next catalyst for Ethereum deflation to occur and the Ethereum outperformance of Bitcoin to occur that can maybe finally spur this alt season? You shared this tweet with me, so I'll let you talk about it. But BlackRock staked Ethereum ETF, ETHB, is to launch today. And remember, we were talking about this was going to become a reality. We were talking about when it was going to happen. And we said it is massive. And other people were hopping on the bandwagon. It was all the fuel to get Ethereum back above 4,000, six months ago. Wow, this is revolutionary for a risk on asset to pay a dividend yield. This is going to be massive. BlackRock's going to push it. Coinbase is going to push it. It's going to spur FOMO from retail investors. And now what's happening? And not a single soul is talking about
it. We're talking about it here on Crypto Paradise live streams. We're keeping our eye on the long term. But yeah, I think it is big news. This is a new instrument similar to their existing ETF. You can buy shares of this ETH ETF, and then BlackRock has to hold ETH in the background on behalf of those investors. But this ETFB is different. This one allows you to earn dividend yield based on the Ethereum, which is actually being staked on behalf of the users. So for those TradFi investors who like dividends, but also maybe like a little upside, opportunity with kind of an undervalued new tech stock, I think is likely how they're going to view it. I put air quotes around that. This is, I think this is going to be a very popular product. My guess is we're going to see tremendous inflows into this product over the next 6 months, year, whatever. But remember, these things do take time, and you're not going to see Ethereum do a 2x overnight just because this product is launched. But it's slow moving, sort of, let's call it a snowball effect. This product just launched. You're going to have a lot of inflows here, and I think it ultimately is very, very good for Ethereum price performance over time.
I think initially you might actually see a FUD storm, because what I think a lot of people might do is they're going to go from their other Ethereum ETF, the spot ETF, or withdraw from that to redeposit into here. And you're going to have that FUD storm for a day or two of, oh my God, look at all the withdrawals and the negative funding for the Ethereum spot ETF. And then 2 days later, they're like, never mind, psych, they just all put it into ETHB, because why wouldn't you? Because you're going to earn 82% of the staking yield as a holder of this ETF. Now, why is this going to be pushed so hard, and why is it so beneficial? Number one, like you said, instead of just holding Ethereum spot, and they're going to buy and sell that based off the shares holders buying and selling like the current ETF structure, this one, if it is staked, that means they have to actively do the 45-day period of locking that ETH, and then the 45-day period of unlocking it if there is negative withdrawals. So they do take on some risk. For that risk, Coinbase and BlackRock are taking 18% of the staking rewards. So that is their incentive to get people onboarded and to get people locked up in it for a long time. And they're still going to make it appetizing, because even with the current Ethereum reward sys structure, if you go buy this, you're going to have the ETH. Somebody is going to stake it on your behalf, going to hold it on your behalf, and you're still going to get 2.8% Ethereum rewards based on that staking reward. So number one, I think it locks it up for a lot longer period of time, 45 days in, 45 days out. Number two, I think Coinbase and BlackRock are heavily incentivized to get people onboarded and get people locked up in that for a long period of time. And then number three, this is a way for people to start to get into risk on assets as the market is starting to like Bitcoin and Ethereum again, while also receiving that 2.8% dividend yield that you normally only get from safer stock plays or even safer assets like a CD or the money market.
Yeah, I think what people understand, because your average DGen might think that, oh, wow, 2.8%, big whoop. This product isn't really designed to appeal to the Web3 DGen, let's just be honest. This is more appealing to those who may be inclined to invest in dividend stocks. There's a whole class of investors who love dividend stocks, right? And over time, they can make you a lot of money. But if you look at the traditional dividend stocks, I just did a little search here. Coca-Cola's, a big one. Verizon's a big one. They're relatively stable. There isn't quite the upside that you would have in an Ethereum. So with this, you kind of get best of both worlds, arguably. You get the kind of the safety, quote unquote, of a dividend-paying stock, and you get the upside of like a high-flying tech stock. So it's very interesting. We're going to see how this performs. I think it will appeal to a lot of TradFi investors, and of course, great for us Ethereum believers along the way.
I agree. I'm seeing if there's anything else to relate to that. There isn't too much more going on as far as Ethereum is being concerned. But we do know that bankers have been kind of the nemesis to the Clarity Act that we're trying to get pushed. They've been pushing back in a public forum lately, which isn't a good sign for us who want this to be resolved by the end of March. Trump wants it to be resolved by the end of the March. And Hexbull also thinks it's going to be resolved by the end of March. He was a resident bear calling for 40K, switched it to 65K. We went to 60, and we are rallying. And he now says he believes it'll be done by March 30th. We've been calling done by end of Q1 2026 for quite a while. So that's what we want, but we're running out of time. With the Iranian war still going on, bankers coming out publicly and fighting, do we finally have a banker on our side? Mr. Jamie Dimon himself. Mr. Bitcoin is going to zero. Bitcoin is dead. Bitcoin is rat poison. I wear a sling. I'm a bum. But now I can grift off this market because I'm prepared. Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase, goes on national TV and says, crypto is better than the current financial system. The experiment phase is over. This is the pivot of a century. Now, I don't like Jamie Dimon, because I don't like when people talk out of their ass, say one thing, do another, lead the general public. My parents, your grandparents watched him back in 2017 talking ish on it and faded it because of that, and they missed out on retiring early potentially. Well, here he is, now fully embracing it. Why? Because he can make money off it. His bank can make money off it. But the only good thing I see out of this is why other banks are fighting against the Clarity Act. Other bank leaders have just come out publicly against stablecoins. Jamie Dimon, out of nowhere, is saying crypto is better than the current financial system.
I mean, you can get mad about it because of the flip-flop, sure. But does this signal that the Clarity Act is actually going to pass with stablecoin yield as a part of that? And are banks now just going to adopt instead of fight and try to kill the bill? Maybe. I think this could signal that. But either way, regardless of what Jamie Dimon thinks, I mean, you're seeing bank after bank, financial institution after financial institution embracing blockchain and crypto in a way that 2-3 years ago was just unimaginable. I don't think this whole-scale adoption and acceptance of crypto by the financial institutions is priced in really at all. It doesn't feel like it. Not with Bitcoin 50% off all-time high, essentially. So, this is one of these slow-moving but massive stories, and we're going to look back and say, wow, 2026, what a pivotal year. That was the year the financial institutions laid the groundwork and came into crypto in a big way and allowed us to run to $250,000, $500,000 Bitcoin.
And right on cue, we have here, Tether just minted another 1 billion USDT. This is Tether's first $1 billion mint in over a month. Are they about to start printing? Well, we got bankers kind of getting on the side of stablecoins, at least Jamie Dimon is. We got Coinbase fighting for the side of stablecoins in the Clarity Act, and now you have Tether printing another $1 billion. And remember, Tether is heavily scrutinized now. So this is being backed by Bitcoin, by Ethereum, by Tron, by US dollars, by US treasuries. And I don't think they would be just printing more out of thin air when they know the Clarity Act is so close and all these stablecoin companies are going to be under the microscope.
Yeah, the question in my mind is whether this Tether is going to actually enter the crypto market, the altcoin market, or maybe it's just because there are a lot of people around the world who need dollars. They really need a digital dollar. Like if you look, obviously, what's happening in Iran right now, their currency crashed to literally zero. You better believe their citizenry is looking for an alternative. And here comes digital dollars, peer-to-peer, backed by treasuries, backed by all these stable assets. There's a multitude of countries in similar situations. I believe Turkey's lira is under tremendous pressure as well. The stable coins are apparently very popular there. So there's many, many countries that are using stable coins for everyday purposes, which is great. The question to me is whether any of this actually trickles into our beloved altcoins and help the pump. Maybe some of it will. But very happy to see that. This is exactly what the Treasury wanted. This is what Trump wanted. A buyer for U.S. Treasuries in the form of stablecoins. Works
very smart. Keeps the economy humming for U.S., keeps the global reserve currency of the world as the U.S. dollar, and keeps it stronger, which helps anybody. If you make fiat currency for your job, I don't care if you're in a 9-to-5, an entrepreneur, a side hustle, it doesn't matter. Obviously, you want the fiat currency of USDT to remain as strong as possible because that's probably what you collect on. That's probably what you utilize, and that's really what's keeping the global economy strong in a relative statement. Obviously, the spending power keeps going down to the right, but I think you'd like that to be slower rather than faster, whether you like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or fiat, because that's still what 95% of the people in the world are using is some kind of fiat currency as a price for their business and or their product.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what's happened with the stablecoin bill, and then you even reflect back on with all these wars, the Venezuela, whatever you want to call that incursion where we took Maduro, and of course the Iran war, a lot of it is being done to sort of reinstill the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. I know a lot of countries were pushing for an alternative, call it global reserve currency, the BRICS standard. But Trump has pretty much done away with that possibility, having essentially taken out the Iranian regime. Venezuela's off the table. China's kind of on their back foot, struggling probably to find energy right now. And, of course, Russia's completely isolated. And then you have this pass through the stablecoin bill. So, if you hate the U.S., you're probably pissed off about it. But from my standpoint, it's pretty damn good. And I think we're going to, again, look back in a couple of years and go, wow, stable coins are actually one of these sort of, let's call it, ultimate use cases or aha moments for crypto and blockchain technology, because people all around the world are using digital dollars now, not their shitty own fiat currency.
Yep. And where a lot of those stablecoins going to go, they're going to be on Ethereum. So we keep talking about all these things that are bullish for Ethereum. We told you near the exact lows of the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart that Ethereum would outperform Bitcoin for the remainder of the cycle, which it has been doing. That outperformance has slowed just a bit on this downtrend since the October 10th liquidity crisis, but I think it is going to start ticking up. Today we have the Nasdaq down 1%, Bitcoin remains flat at 70K, and Ethereum is up 1.13%, probably primarily due to what we just talked about. Clarity Act on the table with stablecoins. You got Jamie Dimon talking about the tokenization of assets, probably occurs on Ethereum, and you have the BlackRock ETHB launching, which is a whole new investment class for these institutional investors. And we saw that the institutional demand for crypto is still high, with over $100 million in inflows into the Bitcoin ETF just yesterday.
I mean, the only thing holding back a market rally is the uncertainty around this Iran war. If we did not have that, like, let's remove that. There's no uncertainty at that point. Oil prices go back down. The Fed doesn't have to worry about inflation anymore. We don't have to worry about World War III anymore, and the markets can get risk on. So I know right now it sucks. Everyone's like kind of on edge. Oh, what's going to happen next? Absent Trump just completely botching this and effing it all up by prolonging it further than it needs to be, this thing is going to end and the markets are going to rip and roar, guys. I can almost guarantee it.
When do you think that they would say that it's over or they've done enough? Because obviously regime change is really hard to happen. We've seen that protesters did stand up against the current regime, but 32,000 of them were slaughtered. So it's very unlikely that the remaining civilians will stand up and try to take over because they're going to fear dying too. 32,000 is crazy. You understand? That's like a hockey rink, an NBA stadium, completely full of people, all massacred due to trying to stand up to the regime. Just put that in perspective, guys. That's insane. But, like, what is enough? Like, obviously, we took out, like, 59 of their top 100 officials. We took out their first supreme leader. We took out the supreme leader for Hezbollah. Now the son is coming to power. Do you need to take out the son as well? And then, essentially, the entire family of the former supreme leader would be dead, including himself, his wife, their children, their nieces, their nephews, and the new supreme leader. And then that's enough? Or what is enough? Originally, people were hoping for regime change. I don't think it's going to happen. But this is kind of the last supreme leader in that bloodline that could be a reality. Do you think they need to take him out and then they'll call it quits? Or is there another milestone that I'm missing?
Well, here's the great thing about that question. The White House has given us the answer. I know they've been a little bit all over the map. They at one point were talking about regime change, stuff like that. But they've been pretty clear for a number of weeks now what the ultimate objectives of Operation Epic Fury have been. And they just clarified it again. The White House did a tweet. I'm looking at it right now on my computer. From the start, the Trump admin made the objectives of Operation Epic Fury unmistakably clear. 1. Destroy Iranians' regime's missile arsenal. 2. Eliminate the Navy. 3. Ensure Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And 4. End the threat posed by terrorist proxies. I would argue that almost all of those are done. The only thing that gives me pause and cause for concern is the question around the nuclear weapon. And that is because we know that they had a decent amount of enriched uranium that was enriched to 60%. Did we destroy that somehow? We just dropped another bunker buster, apparently. Did we destroy it? If not, does it require like special commandos like dropping in and like stealing it out of some, doing some James Bond shit, some Mission Impossible shit? Or are we just going to say, you know what? We've done enough damage. We are now able to, if we see them going and trying to build more and rebuild their facilities and do things that we don't want them to do, we can just bomb them again because they have no more military to defend themselves. Have we done enough to basically say, okay, we can prevent it if it needs to be prevented? So that's really the big open question around the nuclear stuff, but I think we've achieved all the other objectives thus far, so I think this thing's almost done.
Yeah, it's good to hear. The only other thing besides the Iran war that I think could affect the markets or maybe have a trickle-down effect is this one that you shared. You probably know more than me, but here we go. Breaking private credit. Another one. $33 billion Cliffwater private credit funds limits redemptions to 7% instead of 14%. Half of what it came in. Blue Owl, Blackstone, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Cliffwater. Who is next? Essentially, these are private equity firms and private equity investments that schleps like us can never even get invested in. So I really don't feel all that bad. I used to work for an institutional financial advisor, and I worked in the this asset class: private equity, hedge funds, real estate, alternative assets, essentially. And some of the returns are pretty crazy. Some of the drawdowns are pretty crazy, but there are long lockup periods. Think of it of doing like the pre-sale investing we do, except with instead of them raising 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, they're raising like 100 million, 1 billion, etc. The numbers get huge. Where you have lockup periods, you have clauses, but you're high risk, high reward. Like for example, DraftKings, you probably heard of that. When that first launched, that was a private equity investment only. That was in some of the private equity portfolios. Those people made a absolute fortune. So although I don't really feel bad for them because they get massive winners, they get exposure to things that schleps like us never could invest in, and they have massive dollars to throw around. And normally, that is other investor dollars. BlackRock is on the list. That means maybe your grandpa or your grandma gets into a fund, that fund then invests into private equity, whatever it may be. This could have a trickle-down effect. You were explaining your thoughts on why it could have a trickle effect. And overall, when the big boys lose money, it's not good for really any markets as they divest from other winning investments to cover up the holes from losing investments over time.
That's the key, man. The word's contagion, right? Like, if enough of these private credit deals basically go to zero, because you have to understand how these work, right? You mentioned DraftKings, you mentioned the big winners. Well, there's a lot of losers in these investments as well, right? And so, do enough of them go to zero? Do enough of the issuers halt redemptions? Basically, you can't get your money out. That's what's happened now. There's been 5 or 6 of these private credit issuers saying you can't get your money out, or you're only going to get half of it out. Do enough of the investors then run to the exits and say, or, demand their money or whatever, have like a bank run, or more likely what's going to happen is those investors looking for liquidity are going to sell their liquid assets, right? And that can have a way on the stock market and even crypto potentially. So does this spiral out of control? I don't think it's getting to that point, but it is a story to keep an eye on. It kind of, you could argue it reminds me a bit of the 2008 market crash based on, mortgage-backed securities and just bad debt flowing through the system. And Wall Street was invested in all these bad mortgages. The holders of those mortgages, the people who bought the homes, they default. Turns out all these are bad loans. No one's getting paid back anything, and the whole system goes to shit, and you have the 2008 financial crisis. That's the fear. If you want to take the bearish sort of argument here, I don't know if it spirals out of control to that extent, because I don't think private credit is that big of an industry. I mean, it doesn't really touch Main Street that much. It's mostly a Wall Street thing. But does the contagion spread? I don't know, man. We'll keep an eye on this story.
Well, and the other thing is too, hopefully if they are divesting for something, hopefully some of those big boys have investments in precious metals and commodities, and they can divest from that, not really affect us. And then we know when we see drawdowns in consolidation in gold or silver, historically, Bitcoin and risk on assets catch a bid. Now, they're not going to probably divest from those to then invest in crypto, but at least from historical and data analyst perspective, it would look good for crypto. So we'll see. They probably don't have much Bitcoin and stuff they can divest from based on the current prices that we have for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Again, hopefully it isn't contagion. Hopefully they're still, right now they're still able to get some funds out just half as much as they thought. That would be essentially like a pre-sale saying, hey, I know we told you 6-month vesting, linear vesting, but now we're changing it to 12-month linear vesting. Sucks to suck. It's due to market conditions, and we believe that the investment needs more time to kind of ferment and build up on itself.
Yeah, that's probably the outcome here, but we'll have to see. I mean, the worst case scenario is not so much that the investors in these assets would then have to sell Bitcoin to cover their loss, but that they would have to sell stocks. And if S&P 500 goes down 20%, well, of course, crypto is going to crash even more. So everything is connected in that sense. But we'll monitor this story. I think, the more likely outcome is, the issuers of the funds are going to calm the investors down. Hey, instead of 6 months, we need 12. Instead of 2 years, we need 4 years. Whatever. Here's some money now. It's not as if you can't take any money out, but you can't take all of it you wanted out at this moment in time. And I would assume the investors in these funds kind of understand that risk going into it. You would hope so anyway. But what they really should have done, they never should have gotten these shitty, let's lend money to some shitty private company that may go to zero and never get our money back. We should have just invested into Stretch. We should have just invested into Michael Saylor's new instrument that always stays $100 per share. You can get your money out. It's very liquid. and pays 11.5% dividend every year, but paid out monthly, non-taxable. What a better investment than this bullshit private credit that the Wall Street firms got sucked into.
That's
Maybe
very
people should look
true.
at that.
Oil price is $93, so a little bit of a rally the past 2 days as there's still uncertainty in Iran, but still far off that $120 mark we saw while the markets were closed overnight. We have seen gas prices did stabilize. They were raised when we went to $120 a barrel. They didn't drop yesterday when we dropped to 75 a barrel, and they haven't moved yet today at 93 a barrel. We'll see how that continues to progress. And then silver price is back down to $85 per ounce. Continues to consolidate along with gold, falling from 120 an ounce straight down to $65 an ounce and now settling at 85. But remember, if precious metals consolidate and then we get that clarity from Iran, that is a recipe for bullish markets when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto when you look at historical trends. So we're going to keep following those, keep mentioning those every live show just to kind of get you in the loop on what those prices are doing, whether you're invested in it, whether you got to fill up the gas at your tank. They are directly impacting risk on assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, collectibles, and trading cards.
Oh, it definitely affects everything. I mean, I'm only half joking when I say, why are people complaining about an extra $5 at the pump? I mean, that's not meaningful. But what's meaningful for guys like me is like my investment suffering. that's not $5. That's like six figures and more. Up and down moves based on what oil does. The one thing that's been a little disconcerting for me watching this whole thing is we've now had multiple days in a row where countries around the world, I think Europe had done it yesterday, now the U.S. is basically saying, hey, we're going to release our strategic reserves. And yet oil price continues to go up. That's not a good sign. I don't like that. Oil price should be going down if we're talking about releasing 450 million barrels or whatever the number is, like an incredible number. Oil should be going down, but it's not. So I don't know, is the futures market telling us they're concerned about a longer, term war here? Are they worried that even if Trump backs off that Iran won't? I don't know, man. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, no doubt about it, and that's why we're just stuck in this range and no one can quite figure out where the market's going.
Yeah, and I think what added to the uncertainty is, did you see the FBI release yesterday?
Was that something about the drones they're worried about coming into California?
Yeah, they said that they're with intelligence that there was a schedule of Iran was going to try to do a last hurrah and try to on-site drone strikes in California, which would be like suicide drone strikes, kind of like they did in Dubai to some buildings, etc., as well to that French military building where essentially it's just a missile on a drone and they're just trying to kamikaze it into buildings. Why would they choose California? I don't know. Is that the closest shore to them? I'm not a geography master, but that was the rumors. Now, normally, historically, I'm like, I don't really trust CIA, FBI, anything like that. Obviously, I trust this FBI a little better. They've caught like 5 of the most wanted people all within a year, and we call it 0 under Biden or whatever it was. They've stopped other terrorist threats, had proof to that, had receipts for that. So how true is this? I don't know. I never like to believe the 3-letter government agencies, but this FBI has been doing pretty well this past year. Obviously getting intel to literally capture the leaders of Venezuela, kill the leaders in Iran, stop terrorist organizations, catch the FBI's most wanted faster than any president in history. So, I guess they get the benefit of the doubt here. But that is kind of crazy. That is what you fear. When you have people, you can't fight and argue with stupid. You ever met that person, that friend that you literally can't argue with? They'll be a hypocrite to their own argument. They'll flip-flop, and they'll make literally, it's like beating your head against the wall. You can't win an argument against them. That's kind of how I believe Iran behaves. When they were losing this war, if that's what you want to call it, what do? They just start, send drones out. Just random people doing whatever they want, bombing Dubai, bombing France, just trying to create chaos rather than trying to win. And I wouldn't put it past them just to try to create chaos as a last gasp. Remember, these are the same people that literally will blow themselves up in the name of Allah to have 9 virgins sucking on their wieners when they die. So I wouldn't put it past them to just drone strike the mainland USA, even though many countries have realized you probably shouldn't do that going back to Pearl Harbor, because all you're going to do is unite America, and maybe that's what is the best for America at this time. Just like Pearl Harbor, just like 9/11, those are kind of the best decades of America as far as unity and bringing patriotism back, and maybe Iran's going to make a very heavy mistake if they do that, because remember, the people that are literally on Iran's side, most of them are in California. It's the liberal left, and that's who you're going to bomb. I don't think they'll be on your side after that.
That's a good point. But the fact of the matter is, logistically, it's basically impossible for Iran to get drones halfway around the world. I think California is the closest coast, but we're talking about, I mean, it took the B-2 or whatever, that bomber, like 12 hours to reach, or 24 hours even, I think, to reach, or it was 12 hours to reach Iran and then back. Drones are tiny things. There's no realistic logistical way for them to achieve that. So my guess is they just leaked whatever, oh, we're planning this. And then the FBI kind of has an obligation, I guess, to report any, quote, credible threat, even if it's not that credible, even if it's not really possible. But I don't think, first of all, I don't think that's going to happen. They're not going to strike California with drones. There's no way. We would shoot them down well before that's even, it's not possible. I think the reason why the market is acting the way it is, just consolidating here and kind of uncertain, is, first of all, we don't know when Trump's going to end this thing. We don't really know how Iran is going to respond. My guess is they do stand down. My guess is Trump declares victory and the regime also declares victory because, hey, we survived. I know our Supreme Leader's dead, whatever, but here's a new guy. We've certainly, the regime has survived, so we've won, great, we defeated great Satan and little Satan, whatever they like to call us, and, we're going to go back to business as usual. The risk is that they don't do that and they just continue to block up the Strait of Hormuz and they continue firing off at the neighbors and they continue basically this war even though we've stood down. And then what do we do to respond to that? I guess we just continue it on and we wouldn't end. So that is, there are risks here. This thing continues. But again, my guess is that within the next few days, look, the White House just came out with here are the 4 objectives. You can make an argument that all of them are achieved or almost all of them. Here are the 4 objectives. We achieved them all. We've won. At that point, Iran, maybe for a couple extra days, shoots off to, look strong or whatever, shoots off a few more missiles at whomever. And then they also say, hey, we've won. We're alive still. And, both sides can, declare victory. And we get back to business as usual. That is my guess as to what to happen. Let's see if my instincts are correct.
We got Cookie Dev saying good morning, AJ West saying good morning, and Fat Sammy hopping in here saying hello, guys. What's going on? Yeah, and uncertainty here is why we still see the chance of Federal Reserve rates being cut is still less than 1%, because like you said, they can just lean on this uncertainty. So you have 5 days and 9 hours to end this war, Trump, and even then they still might use it as uncertainty, like you said. Even if you declare victory, maybe Iran just shoots a missile, and then what? So it's not looking good for a rate cut, even though we see in CPI data, PMI data, job data, every kind of data, housing market data, you should probably be cutting rates. You are too slow. You are behind the ball. We probably need a jumbo cut of 0.5%. Very unlikely as the date is approaching here. 5 days, 9 hours, less than 1% chance combined for a 25 basis point cut or 50 basis point cut. All the data says the cut, but Powell obviously is going to lean on any uncertainty in the market not to cut because he is clearly a human being who is biased by TDS.
Yeah, the good news is that even though there's going to be no cut, that no cut is priced in. We've known about a no cut since the last meeting when basically he came out and said we're close to neutral rates in our opinion, which is crazy. Which is incorrect in my view, but that's what they're saying. And then, of course, now with oil prices higher, they're just going to lean on anything to, again, suggest, no cut. But what's interesting is looking forward, right? And you just clicked on the April. Obviously, this is going to change dramatically based on the Powell press conference because that's really what's going to swing this one way or another. But even looking ahead then to June, we will have the new Fed... head of the Fed in there, Kevin Warsh. And look at that. We're pretty much a toss-up at that point, and even some 50 basis points.
What is this person thinking here? A 1% chance of a 50 basis point hike by June. So you get in Warsh. You're like, Warsh is just putting on, he's the best bluffer ever, getting Trump to appoint him. And he's like, hey, I know you guys wanted cuts and you hated Powell because he did no cuts. We're going to do a 50 basis point jumbo rate hike.
Yeah, there's zero chance of that happening. But I'm already looking ahead. Look, June's not that far out, guys. We're talking about 3 months. As soon as as soon as Kevin Warsh comes in, I think you start to see the markets anticipating cuts and easing in QE, and we start to see some bullishness. By the way, I think we get bullishness before that. I think we see a huge rally across equities, crypto, every risk on asset as soon as this war is done. That's literally all we need, Max. We need this war to be over, and we will resume a major pump. Oil will crash back down, and we can get on with our lives here. So fingers crossed that's in the next couple days. They said what, like he was a 2 to 4 week or 4 to 6 week time horizon on this war, but we're way ahead of schedule, is what they basically come out and said over and over. We're at 2 weeks come Saturday. So this
I think originally they said their goal was a 4-week war, and they said we were ahead of schedule. So we shall see. And somebody agrees with you that bullish markets are coming. Bitcoin created more new whale wallets in 6 months than the previous 3-year combined. Smart money isn't waiting for your bottom signal. I don't even know if it's smart money. It's just big money is not waiting. So maybe we rinsed out some of the Bitcoin evangelists and the OGs, some of these cyberpunks, the early individuals who became whales on the back of maybe $1,000 investment. But now the wealthiest, the smartest, the biggest banks around the world are accumulating while you are panicking. While you think Bitcoin's going to 40,000, more new whale wallets have been created in the past 6 months, even though we've seen whales getting flushed out, 4-year cyclists flushing out, taking their gains. They are being offset by all of this new money and all of these new wallets.
I think this is further evidence of our thesis that we're seeing a paradigm shift with Bitcoin and the holders changing from the early adopters to now the institutional class and the ETF buyers, etc. What's sad about it, honestly, is that, again, I think in 10 years we're going to look back and go, wow, Bitcoin is now fully institutionalized. Yep. It sucks that most of the retail, there's only 20% retail left. It's 80% institutions now. It used to be 100% retail, and they all got flushed out and washed out on the way from $0 Bitcoin to $1 million Bitcoin in 2035. Wow, isn't that sad? I wish they could have stuck around. But that's what the volatility does to people. You guys can't handle the ups and the downs, and then you take out leverage and so on the tops, then you get wrecked and you have to sell, and it's sad, guys. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy in 2035 going, damn, I had 5 Bitcoins back in 2026. I sold them because I thought it was going to 40 and never bought back in. I know guys like that, by the way. A friend of mine, literally that's his story. And we're going to look back 2035 and he's going to go, damn, I fucked up.
And I like Maiko's message here. If you're waiting for the bottom to buy after Bitcoin has already dropped 50% during a midterm year, you don't understand Bitcoin. That is very true. Very good point. This is kind of why we thought we could have the extension of this cycle, and that if there was a downturn in Bitcoin from the 4-year cyclist, which we have seen, we wouldn't do the full 85 to 95% drop like we have historically. Because of all the bullish macros coming. You have the chance at the Clarity Act. You got chance at rebate checks. You have chance of interest rate cuts. You have chance of liquidity growth because ISM has been consolidated in the 40s, finally back into the 50s, and needs to expand in the 60s if that's going to follow historical cycles. And, of course, you have the all-important midterm. You want the Bitcoiners and cryptoers to be voting Republican. You want the markets to go higher so the average Joe with the 401k votes Republican. You want the economy to be strong and tax refunds to be big, so the below average Joe votes Republican. If that's what you are as a Republican leader, Trump himself, that is what you want to happen. That is why you need markets higher, you need liquidity higher, you need ISM expansion, and all of those things historically do is pump Bitcoin, pump Ethereum, and pump your bags.
And look, if you're a bear out there, I think the wisest strategy is to say, look, anything could happen. We could break down further, or we could be, the bulls could be right, we could blast up to 100K as soon as the war ends. So why not just dollar cost average here? Keep some dry powder on the theory that, hey, you may be right, and we may be breaking down, and 4-year cycle's still a thing, and all those, all those horrible nightmares come true for us bulls. So keep some dry powder, but get yourself into the market a little bit, because you also could be wrong. I mean, it's so different than in the bulls. I mean, I should have been scaling out a little bit of that 126K now in retrospect, right? So for the bears out there, DCA is your friend. DCA in, DCA out, as I like to say. Because, truly, no one truly knows what's going to happen next. My guess is we are going higher, though.
Does anybody watching have any altcoins, any networks, any alpha that they want to throw out there? Obviously, we're following along a lot with Sentinel, with the AI they got going on, and launching pools coming with any markets. We need to start betting on any markets. You need to get that set up. We need to connect that wallet so we can start doing that live on air. There is no token there yet, but it is a crypto-related platform in the crypto markets, a prediction market. So we want to get involved with that as well. But is there anything else really going on in these markets? Let us know, because something is brewing here. Something is brewing. Hopium for altcoins. Altcoin dominance just had a bullish monthly candle cross for the first time since November of 2023. No wonder it feels like it's been an eternity since we made real money, because this cross hasn't happened since November 2023. The last one resulted in a mini alt season, which lasted for months. And you always talk about, in order to get retail back, in order to get retail FOMO, in order to get that free retail marketing that everybody wants, you need consecutive days, weeks, and months of green candles and hopium. And that potentially is what could be happening here very shortly. If you get that pressure valve released for Bitcoin itself, while you have altcoin dominance flashing bullish signals, that's how you can quickly switch momentum, morale, and get that retail FOMO back into this market.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't guarantee we're going to have an alt season next month or so, but there are a confluence of events which are likely to occur, which then would result in an alt season. Obviously, we need this Iran war to end. That's first and foremost. I think it is going to end in the next days, week, whatever. So let's check that off. That's done and dusted. I think you need a dovish Powell. Not necessarily a cut, but coming out on the press conference, whether this one or the next, and basically saying, hey, inflation's a thing of the past. We're now more focused on the labor market. We're not going to cut here necessarily, but we are looking at future rate cuts in the dot plot, which is what their basically predictions are for future cuts, is showing 3 or 4 cuts in 26. If they do that, hey, risk on. We're off to the races. And then, of course, the Clarity Act. We need the Clarity Act passed. Apparently, it's super close. Like, every time I read a story about it, it's like, it's so close. The Dems are now on board. The fight with the banks is almost over. The banks are maybe coming around. Trump's pushing it through. All that stuff. So I think, look, Iran war, you need a little bit of help from the Fed, and then the Clarity Act. And, man, we could easily be $4,000 ETH, 100K Bitcoin, altcoins ripping and roaring. It's all within our grasp, guys. Is it guaranteed to happen? No. But I think really 3 likely things just tipping in our favor, and we're off to the races.
We got Cookie Dev in the chat here, says Doge and Pepe are depreciated, naming out some of the largest meme coins. Really, Doge has been the largest meme coin for cycle after cycle, continues to be strong, and maybe X Money will give it a bid. Will Elon start talking about Doge or utilize Doge within the X Money app? And then Pepe is one of the largest, but the new darling in probably what was that mini alt season that we saw a year or two ago when it came onto the scene and really spurred a mini alt season. Pepe moved. Then we got involved with Mog. That moved. And then there was a series of other smaller meme coins that went and did multiple of X's. Doge and Pepe are probably ingrained in the meme culture and probably ingrained in the meme society due to their holder base. Do you think Doge and Pepe start a meme season for smaller assets? Or do you think Doge and Pepe kind of follow Bitcoin and ETH and we get new meme season or new utility plays that kind of stand on their own to create the next all season?
Well, I think both things are going to happen. One, when the market finally turns bullish, what do you see running first? It's usually the tried and true memes that have bottomed out, and that's a great signal that, hey, market's getting a risk on again. So I'm sure Doge is going to outperform for a little while. Pepe, I don't know, the other big memes that were popped, dog with hat, I don't know, there's probably like 10 that are going to do well. But to get like incredible life-changing returns, you need to get deeper into the trenches, whether that's like new memes, which obviously are very highly risk of rug, etc., or we prefer our new utility plays, which are launching with low FTVs, solid tech, good teams that are going to stick with it. That's how we've done sustained 100x, investments in the past. Memes are tough, man, because they can do 100x for an hour and then back down to 0 the next hour, right? That's a little bit harder game to play. The game I prefer, because I'm a little bit old and lazy and I can't be in the trenches 24/7, I got kids and stuff, is trying to find solid projects which can stand the test of time that are undervalued. That's the game I like to play. We talk about Smart Sentinels. That's a great example. New project, going to be launching at 10 million FTV, seed routed to 2 million FTV, already has a product, good team, good tech, good narrative, AI agents. I mean, that to me is the way to go. But of course, Doge, Pepe, they'll run, and then everything else is going to run. It'll be glorious.
I'm excited for the fun to come back to the market. We've had little spotlights of glimmer and hope. Remember when we had the big consolidation and Bitcoin broke out to the upside of 98K, but then we had Greenland and World War III with Europe FUD that stopped that. We saw Ethereum break out to nearly $4,000. That looked good. It stopped there. So let's see if this consolidation can truly be a breakout to the upside after this MA cross is going to happen. Remember, that didn't happen at those higher levels, so that's looking good for us. And really, hopefully the war, the death, the destruction, the terrorism can stop around the globe, get some certainty back into the economy, and then we can focus on clarity acts and financial decisions rather than war decisions, which are affecting our bags in a negative light here currently.
Yeah, look, apparently the stock market's open up red today. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fear right now. At what point does Trump taco? Trump, you guys know this phrase, Trump always chickens out. And maybe that's a little bit harsh because I think in some cases things are meant to be short term. He was never intending for it to go on forever. The war is probably a great example of that. But at what point does Trump say, we've achieved enough of our objectives, the markets are looking shaky, oil's too high, politically this is not that popular, let's end the war? He's going to do it at some point. He's gonna pull the plug on this at some point. The only questions in my mind is then what does Iran do in response? Do they stand down? And then what happens with any enriched uranium? Do we manage to find it, destroy it? Or is that still there in country? In which case, God, you'd have to worry about this happening again in a couple years if they rebuild their arsenal up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the scary thing about it, too, from the outsider looking in is, yes, you can deplete it. How long does that delay it? 5 years or 10 years, which is great. That means the globe is safe another 5 or 10 years. But then it's like, who's going to be in power in 5 or 10 years? You hope it's the predecessor to Trump or somebody with the American first mindset or somebody who's going to empower the military, empower the FBI. But remember, it was only a year ago where the FBI was not catching the most wanted individuals in the world, where the military was being led by drag queens, essentially. Men who think they're wearing dresses. That was a reality. Doing TikToks, flamboyant TikToks and all this other shit, where we had the health secretary that was a fat old lady, or it was a man who thought he was a lady who was fat, and that's your health secretary. So you can quickly go back to that being what's in power. And when that happens, there is a vacuum for power globally, and that's what allows the crazies, the terrorists, or, the elites from other countries, communist regimes, to gain power, hold power, and understand that we're weakened at that time. So that's what's scary about it. It's like, do I love war? No. Do I think that we are hurting Iran and stopping Iran and slowing down Iran right now? Today, yes. But if you pull out too early, does that give you 5 or 10 years? And then when that timeline comes, who actually will be in power once again?
Yeah, that's a concern. On the flip side, who knows? Maybe the regime is defeated at that point. They're not going to stay in power forever, are they? I mean, they're pretty weak now. We could see a scenario. I mean, I guess no one's talking about like the best case scenario. Everyone's such a doomsdayer, whether on the left. I mean, the left want the U.S. to lose. Let's just be honest. Like the left, you read about what you're seeing coming out of CNN and New York Times. They basically want the U.S. to lose. Full stop, right? Which is a horrible thing. And then even on the right, there's a lot of people questioning it. Are we doing this just because we're Israel's little bitch or whatever? No one's talking about the possibility of actual genuine regime change. I mean, I'm not giving it even a 50% chance, even a 25%. But what about a 10% chance that enough of the regime hardliners defect, right? Because they're like not getting paid anymore. They're like, this isn't worth it. I'm just going to get killed by a drone. So I'm out. And then you have enough citizenry rise up. And then maybe you have some protection of that citizenry by like the Kurds or something who are armed and against the regime. You could easily, I mean, is it guaranteed that? No, but can we just call it maybe a 10% chance of the best case? Because you just laid out the worst case there. Dems win, at some point, and then we just go back to being little bitches, and then Iran builds up the nuke again, and we're back to square one. God damn it, Iran has a nuke. That's a possibility. But also, look, we could have why can't we ever talk about positive, like, good outcomes? I just got
to be a pessimist in the room. Obviously, we're the bulls when it comes to the markets. We want to see the positives. We were early to predict Trump winning. We were early to predict that would send Bitcoin higher. We were early to predict all the ETFs happening. And now we got the ETHB launching today, which was all the rage. Nobody's talking about it but us. And I think that's why you see the stock market is down 1.5%. Bitcoin is flat and ETH is up 1%, is due to that happening kind of under the radar. But
1%. Let's go.
I just try to look at, we want this to be short and quick, obviously, for the financial reasons. But it's just like if we're too short here and we don't do enough damage, the pendulum usually swings. And maybe the Democrats stop being so kooky and they get back in power. And I just want Iran to not be on the map when it comes to possible nuke, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. We need to really get some kind of big settlement here, right now, as we're already over there.
Here's another dose of hope for you guys who are worried politically the Dems are going to somehow come back to power. I don't see it happening. Who is their leader? Gavin Newsom? Who's the governor of basically a failed state as far as I'm concerned, between the homelessness, the crime, the gas price is $5 a gallon, the rampant fraud.
The gas is $8.29 in Cali due to their internal taxes.
And because they shut down a bunch of their... California used to be a net energy producer because they had a bunch of refineries. They actually have oil there. But because of climate or whatever and liberals getting in charge, they shut down a bunch of those refineries and just overregulated, overtaxed them. So the refineries left. And they had that energy, they still would have been able to have lower gas even with the taxes. So I don't think Gavin Newsom's a viable leader. And then you have the super far left, the Mamdanis, the AOCs. They are not popular amongst normal, regular Americans. Only a very small subset of like super far left liberals like that, like what they're bringing to the table. So I don't think they have a leader. I don't think they have a message other than everything Trump does is bad. They don't have like, what are you going to do for me? And everything bad about Biden, I think, is now coming out, at least if you're paying attention. Like, I didn't know about all this fraud going on. I don't think many of us did. Maybe a handful of people. But now, dude, CBS is reporting on it. It is mainstream news. I mean, there's people in my town who initially didn't believe it, and I had to show them stuff, and they're like, holy shit, yeah, the Somalians did steal $9 billion. This is fucked. So, people thinking back on the Biden years, do we want to go back to that versus, God, I mean, maybe... if you're moderate, I don't love everything Trump did, but at least he stands for something, and America feels a little bit stronger, secure. The economy's up, immigration down. Like, I don't know. I guess you have to be a little more right wing to appreciate what Trump is doing. But long story short, I don't see the Dems in their current constituted form, with their lack of leadership and bad ideas, being able to win a national election.
You would hope not. And the other thing is that you need for that definitely not to happen would be the Save America Act. If you take illegals off of the ballot boxes, they have zero chance of winning. Well, Nick, there's no illegals voting. They're finding evidence of it all the time. Go look it up if you want to. It gets buried a bit. They're finding evidence of fraud all the time. Actually, enough fraud in one city, in one state, that Trump would have then won the 2020 election. So all the conspiracy theories about fraud and illegals, they could have kept the illegals in 2020. They could have kept all the fraud in the other cities in the states. But if they one city in the one state, the 300,000 ballots that were proven fraud, he lost by 115,000 votes or something. Trump was the president in 2020, and right now Trump wouldn't even be president. It would have been maybe somebody else. Would it have been Rubio? Would it have been Vance? Or would it have been a Democrat? I don't know. But Trump would have had 2 terms in a row. And maybe that is for the better that didn't happen, because the Democrats were exposed for who they were, what their beliefs were, anti-crypto, pro-LGBT, the craziness going on there. And it gave Trump more time to understand how he could be more efficient in the cabinet he wanted around him, because this is probably it's obviously a more efficient FBI, a more efficient cabinet, but probably a better cabinet for getting shit done versus the cabinet he had in the first term, where he really didn't even think he was going to win, and then he was kind of thrown into it. So maybe it was for the better. But that has already been proven now that illegals are voting. Illegals have the right to vote, or in some states. And there was fraud, massive rampant fraud within the election system, and people are going to prison for it. So all that is a reality, and when you take away the fraud and you take away the illegals, I think there is a near zero chance that Democrats do win that national election, like you said. I just want people not to sleep on that. I don't want people to think like that and then not show up at the ballot box and somehow they do win.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen between now and then. The economy is going to be the biggest factor, I think. And is Trump vindicated with some of the risks he's taking, right? I mean, Iran war was a risk. Let's call it for what it is. Is he going to be vindicated there? We'll see. Some of what he's doing around the big, beautiful bill, a little bit risky, I guess you could argue. I mean, a lot of what Trump does is, he's leading. He's taking chances here for what he thinks is going to be a better future for Americans. Does it pay off? The tariff gambit, that was a pretty big gambit. And, erect these tariffs. Hopefully that reignites manufacturing in the U.S., all these things. Does it sort of pay off in the end? We'll see. I mean, we have, what, 7 months? No, 8 months until the midterms. So not that far off, right? We need to see the economy, I think, in a little bit better shape. If the economy's growing and markets up and there's no, fears around whatever foreign policy stuff that Trump's been doing, I think they do actually end up winning the midterms as well. But we'll see, man. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Hard to predict these things 8 months out. But yeah, to your point, if you're in the U.S., stay engaged, vote, register, do the right thing.
I think the crazy thing is whether you're in the United States or any country, really the United States election does impact a lot of you globally. The Europeans, it affects you guys, So also your elections matter, so go vote in your smaller countries as well, because they do impact your immediate response to your area, but also the global markets. But we've seen that the U.S. election has had detrimental or positive, however you want to spin it, effects on the global markets. And it will continue to be that way. And we're seeing that Argentina has gone the side of MAGA, doing well for itself. El Salvador has gone the side of MAGA, doing well for itself. And hopefully more countries follow suit, because I do believe it is what is best for those individual countries, those individual cultures, and the financial stability as a whole. Not this kind of global uprising of mix everybody, mix all cultures, and we're all going to live kumbaya, because that is just not human nature at all.
The president of Chile, who was just elected, is also, quote, MAGA. And they're not really MAGA. I mean, they're just more right than they are left, but the media is going to frame it as far right MAGA. No, he just is a little bit more right wing than maybe the leftists who wanted socialism. So I think slowly outside of New York City, which sadly was mostly been taken over by immigrants. If you look at actually the native born who live in New York, which is now a minority within New York, native born Americans, they mostly voted for Cuomo. It was all the immigrants that voted for Mamdani.
Yeah.
So anyway, outside of New York, which I think is completely, we'll see what happens after 4 years, but I don't know if it's going to survive much longer. This outside of New York, most people, most places, they are moderate. They are more right wing leaning. Once you grow up, you become right wing, because you're basically okay, I have to make money for myself, support a family, whether I'm working full time or I'm running a business, and you start to hate taxes and you start to hate regulations, and you don't want to work really hard to have 40% of your income shared with a bunch of bums who don't work. So you basically just become right wing. That's my theory anyway.
Essentially, that's it.
When you're young and poor, you're like, oh, take the money from the rich to give it to me. And then when you finally have some money, where you're like, don't take my money to give it to the poor. That's really what this shit comes down to, guys. So I think there's more right-wing people in the U.S. than left. I think all is going to work out. I think this Iran war is going to work out. I think the markets are going to pump again. I'm an eternal optimist, and it's definitely burned me in the past, I guess temporarily, as I've seen my bags go down, at least temporarily in value. But usually it's worked out. It's worked out to be an optimist on Bitcoin. It's worked out to be an optimist on stocks.
Yep.
It takes a long time, I guess.
Well, we've been live over an hour here. We've covered a bunch of news. We looked at the charts, and not too much going on in price action, but we continue to consolidate in the moving averages. So we'll keep you up to date, and we'll have to do another live show tomorrow, I assume, huh?
Yeah, man. I just hope by then Trump's announced something like can we just end the war? Because I am getting bored. I want to see the price pumping. I don't think it happens tomorrow. When do you think he actually calls it and says, that's it, we've done enough, and declaring victory?
I don't know. Hopefully within 4 weeks.
Oh, I think
that'd be nice.
That'd
be nice if we have. Yeah, if we have that. If we have that big storm of confluence, you get by the end of March, the war is over. By the end of March, you get the Clarity Act. By the end of March, I don't think we're going to get the rate cut, unfortunately. But by the end of March, people are getting their tax refund checks. And then maybe in early April, we get an interest rate cut and we get tariff rebate checks or something along those lines. That would be nice with the oil prices falling. Silver and gold still it really could have all come together by end of March here, first week of April, which would be a nice, beautiful storm if Bitcoin and ETH continue to grind higher on that journey as well.
I think the war ends by next week. I'm just throwing it out there. Let's see. I mean, again, it just takes Trump being okay, we achieved our objectives. They just dropped a big-ass Moab bomb on their one of their remaining nuclear facilities. So did we take out enough of the enriched uranium? And then 95% of their military has apparently been destroyed between all the ships that we've sunk and then all the planes we've destroyed and the missile launchers. And then we've killed like almost all their commanders and so on, the head of their government. So what more? I mean, what more is there to do? Like, what? I mean, is this one destroy 95? You know what's fascinating though? There's apparently this whole alternative reality, it's a fake reality that like a lot of people, I think it's a lot of foreigners, they're not educated, they just believe AI videos, whatever, that think the US has lost, Israel's been destroyed, and that Iran has won. There's people that believe that like Tel Aviv has been flattened because they saw like an AI video.
That's crazy. Yeah, I did see there's one that was going around. It wasn't even AI, but it was old footage. Even the biggest Dems, they want America to lose. Like, oh my gosh, a tanker was just blown up in the Strait of Hormuz, and then it's like actually Gronk says that it was a video from 2019 in a totally different location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the liberals want. No, the liberals absolutely want us to lose.
Yeah.
It's crazy, actually. If you see the narratives, they're not talking about any of the military achievements. They're only talking about the 150. It's tragic that these children died, and that whether I guess we did it on accident. Obviously, it was an accident if we did it, or the Iranians did it. We don't really ultimately know. But even assuming it was us, it's a tragic thing. It's horrible. This is war. These things happen. Collateral damage is a terrible, terrible thing. But this is the reality of war. But this is all CNN's talking about.
Right.
You're not talking about any. You're not talking about the 30,000 protesters that the regime gunned down.
Yeah.
How about they've apparently killed, the regime's killed like schoolgirls, and they've married them off at age 9 and all this shit for like 50 years. And we're just talking about this thing that the U.S. did on accident. It wasn't on purpose.
Well, it's because there's a military facility right next door to it. So again, ask yourself, why does Iran and terrorists always put military facilities in hospitals or by women's schools? It's not a men's school. It's an all-girls school. Huh, makes sense. I wonder why.
Yeah, so the liberals absolutely want us to lose. The good news is we're not losing, unless you're rooting for Iran to win. I guess, for me it's good news that we're winning. But it's just crazy that there's like this alternative, and I think it's a lot of AI. It's because AI is so prevalent. And people just believe what they want to believe. Like, if you were rooting for Iran, then you'll just believe that they're winning. Even if, like, factually that's not true. And we kill. Imagine if President Trump was killed and every single cabinet member was killed by Iran.
Right, and then...
That's what we did to them.
Yeah, and then
Somehow
we're like, all right, well, and we're like, all right, well, let's get Pence. He's not in the cabinet anymore, but he was VP under Trump the first year. Let's put him in. Oh, he died in 24 hours. Okay, we got whoever. We got, what's his face? Shapiro. He's a big proponent of some of the conservative beliefs. Oh, he got murdered 24 hours after he came out and did a video. I mean, that's essentially what happened with Hezbollah and all their supreme leaders being killed and all their cabinets being killed. And then meanwhile, the entire Navy that's protecting your mainland all gets blown up within 48 hours.
Right. This would be the equivalent of us losing our entire Navy, our entire Air Force, and 50 of the most famous popular politicians.
In 72 hours.
That's what we did to them. And somehow we're losing? We've suffered 7 casualties. I know each one of those people, their families, it's a horrible thing. 7 casualties to basically neuter an entire regime and destroy an entire military? I mean, this is incredible. People who teach like military history, who are objective, are going to look back and go, this was one of the most decisive U.S. victories of wars ever.
Yeah.
And yet,
well, all right. I got to take the morning poo from this coffee here. We've been on.
All right, brother. Yeah, I'll let you get going. I could rant on about this for ages because liberals
Acid Thunder One says some analysts on the vid show it was an Iranian missile, but who knows? So that's a thing. Whether it was Iranian, American, it's all sad for those individuals. If it's Iranian, that's even shows you how crazy those people are. If it was American, it's why our military bases by the school. It sucks that there was collateral damage, but that's the nature of war, like you said.
Yeah, and maybe CNN should be a little bit more fair and balanced. Yes, talk about the school, but also talk about the successes of this. Why can't we just call it how it is? I mean, bad things happened, good things happened. Nothing's black and white. But I guess the liberal audiences don't want to hear anything because they're rooting for Iran to win.
Exactly.
Madness. All right, ladies and gents, we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, See you on the beach.